All right. So, in the wake of President Trump's massive victory on November 5th, many scholars are recognizing that our world is going through a significant change right now. Now, originally, scholars like Matthew Goodwin focus on the rise of what we commonly refer to as nationalist populism, where populations were increasingly revolting against globalist institutions and structures and reasserting their national sovereignty, like we saw with the Brexit movement and the first rise of Trump back in 2016. But lately, more and more scholars are noticing that something much deeper is going on here. We're going way beyond a mere revolt, and it's going even beyond nationalism. The revolt is actually turning into a renewal, and nationalism is increasingly being eclipsed by rediscovery of civilizationalism. We even saw this ironically in the likes of none other than the avowed atheist Richard Dawkins. You guys remember this? He recently and ironically lamented the loss of Christian civilization in Great Britain. Civilizational populism is going beyond mere nationalism in its profound rediscovery of the distinctively religious foundations of human culture and society, which then raises a very important question. What would a renewed American civilization really look like? And what role does a revitalized church play in that renewal? Well, joining me today is someone who has written extensively on the Reformation renewal of civilization, and that's Pastor Doug Wilson. Now, if you're not familiar with Doug, I mean, for the past 4 decades, he's been on the forefront of civilizational renewal in Moscow, Idaho, including the founding of a number of churches and schools and New St. Andrews College, Canon Press, the Association of Classical Christian Schools that the new Defense Secretary nominee, Pete Hegseth, has been working with. So we've had a number of our employees here at Turley Talks. A number of my former students have gone off and have studied at New St. Andrews and have even gotten married and settled in New St. Andrews. So we're seeing this beautiful, burgeoning, renewed Christian civilization happening there. So no one is more equipped to inform us on what this new civilizationalist populism is than Doug Wilson himself. So, Doug, welcome. Great to see you again, as always.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, it's an honor. So, I was really looking forward to talking with you on this because, you know, when you look at the landscape of America currently, and just the whole the MAGA movement, the conservative MAGA movement, what do you see, big picture, what do you see as some of the key strengths of the MAGA movement? And what do you see as some of the key weaknesses moving forward?
Okay, I would say the key strength is that the peasants with pitchforks finally decided to storm the castle on the hill.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. That's the key strength. The weakness has to do with what happens when you have a large group of energized people with no clear institutional structures or walls or guideposts to keep them where they ought to be. In other words, some people who are storming the castle on the hill might get distracted and want to go down some alleys or streets to the side to settle some old scores. And you just don't want the focus to be taken away from the elimination of our corrupt oligarchies all over the world. That's what we're dealing with, is corrupt oligarchies.
Right.
That is the great blessing of these different revolts. That's the great blessing. But there is a challenge in every period of tumult. And that challenge is the heart of man remains sinful, and we've got to watch ourselves as well as the other guy. And so I would urge people who are toying with this, investigating it, or caught up in it, to avoid scapegoating, avoid I don't know if I'm going to get the right guy, but I'm going to get somebody. That's the
Right.
that's the thing to watch out for.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting because, yeah, like you said, I mean, populism, uh, populism has so much promise to it. I don't know. Maybe we could say the Reformation was a kind of populist revolt against sort of the neo or against the feudalist world
I would say
of
so. Yeah,
yeah, of the age, but it had to be the church was at the center of that revolt.
correct.
And so to me, why I'm so fascinated by this kind of latest round of scholarship that's just come out, and it's very new. It's only about a year or 2 years old. Is they're noticing that there does seem to be dynamics in play that are going back and seeking to revitalize the religious underpinnings of civilization. So this is going way beyond just like national sovereignty stuff. It's all part of it. That's very much a part of it. But this is, I mean, we're seeing it in India with sort of this Hindu revitalization that's happening. We're seeing it in Turkey with this sort of new Ottoman identity happening, Russia with Russian orthodoxy, even China's going back and talking more about Confucius than they're talking about communism. And it seems here we have, I mean, even Richard Dawkins is lament. We talked about this the last time you were on here. I mean, he's lamenting the loss of Christian civilization. It seems like we're starting to see more and more people openly turning, calling on turning back, the whole Christ is King movement and so forth, turning back and saying the foundation that we have here is Christianity. If MAGA is not ultimately a Christian renewal, it just could be another temporary ideology to take its place on the ash heap of history.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I would say basically what we're seeing in this revolt against the globalist elites is a statement that from all these different populations that they don't, whether or not I believe that Islam, for example, offers a true transcendent. I don't. I believe the Christian faith is true and the Christian God is the true God. But everybody knows that the secular governance structure of the globalist elites, they know that that's not transcendent.
Right.
All right.
That's right. We know that's right.
Yeah. What's the
Right.
one thing that we can all agree on?
Exactly.
We can agree on the fact that the United Nations or the Geneva or Brussels folks, we can all agree that they are not living on Mount Olympus. They are not it. Okay. Now we would have our, Christians would, Christianity remains a missionary faith regardless. And so consequently, I would want to persuade the Hindu and persuade the Muslim and persuade the Buddhist and preach the gospel to them. But we can all agree that bureaucrats are not it.
Right. 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 That's right. Right. Yes, there's no gospel in bureaucracy. That's for sure.
That's right.
What now? You're at the forefront of revitalizing the church in playing this role of reawakening and redeeming every aspect of culture, including politics, and that's one of your controversial characteristics. Is you do not believe anything in Christ's cosmos has been set aside for not being touched by the
Right.
power, the redeeming, transfigurative power of the gospel. What
Yeah,
role does
Jesus rose from the dead. That means it all belongs to him.
it? That's right. That's right. All right. All powers, principality. He stands above everything. I love the Romans 8. He's above everything. Everything else in all of creation. Nothing can
Right.
separate us from the love of God in the face of Christ. He is above it all. So, what role does the church play in addressing any of the weaknesses that the MAGA movement may have?
One of the things that the church has to recover and has gone into long decline over many years is we have to recover the ability to preach the word in a way that brings it down to application, practical application. And that means application in the workplace. That means application when you go to vote. And it means application in the relationship of husbands to wives and wives to husbands, and in the relationship of parents to children. What am I supposed to do as a Christian? What am I supposed to do as a Christian father? What am I supposed to do as a Christian mother? What am I supposed to do as a Christian blacksmith? What am I, what does the gospel have to do with these things? And because the church has not been equipping Christians to live like they were Christians Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday through the week, the world has become increasingly secular. So what Christians have been taught by default is, look, you come to this little God box on the weekend and you worship God in the box. And then when you go out into the dirty world and your only application is try to keep your own nose clean. And then if you keep your own nose clean and you keep coming back to the God box, then when you die or when Jesus comes again, we'll all be okay. And basically, it looks like a lot of evangelical Christians have picked up the idea that God got involved in a land war in Asia, and what's going to happen at the end of the world, he's going to helicopter us all out of Saigon and write the whole thing off. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to be transformative. We are here in order to make a difference. I would say that the biggest central difference that churches can make is teaching parents to keep their kids, which is the theme of my most recent book. Keep your kids. Christians should stop being the breeder farm for the secularists, right? Where we have the kids, and then we ship them off to the government schools to be manipulated into worker bees for the hive. That's not what we ought to be about.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, because I get that a lot. I'll talk about the very promising future of conservative Christian culture, and that we're the ones having the kids, and they've basically stopped having them. Right? Eric Kaufman of the University of London has that wonderful book, "Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth?" And his answer is yes. Basically, they are. He calls it, I think, the soft underbelly of liberalism. That is, the freedom of being a sovereign individual entails the fact, the freedom of not having kids. And so conservative Christians are having more kids than ever, so where seculars have stopped. And yet the pushback I get is, yeah, but they don't need to have kids if they can steal ours. And if they could steal ours through the educational institutions, through Hollywood and the like. And that's what I love about what you do, is you address the holistic civilizational picture. And that's interesting, because I think that leads to the question of sort of like parallel institutions, as it were, very much similar to the classical Christian world that you helped found. What role do parallel institutions have in building civilization? Of course, Elon seems to be blurring that boundary now, because now he seems to be buying up all the institutions. But what role do you think Christians building our own parallel economy, parallel institutions have in living out that vision faithfully?
Yeah, I very much want to encourage Christians to get into the world of business, into the marketplace, into the world of education, and build schools and businesses and restaurants. And I very much want Christians to do that as Christians. But I want to make a distinction between alternative civilization and parallel civilization. In a parallel situation, you are in there together with the non-believers, and the walls between these institutions are porous. In other words, non-believers can come to your restaurant. Non-believers can look at what you're doing, and they can see what you're doing because you're doing it in close proximity to them. It used to be the case when things got too hot for believing Christians, they could just get on a boat and sail to America, right? they there was some place to go, um, and so a bunch of evangelical Danes uh, came over to America. A bunch of evangelical Dutchmen went to Michigan, and so that's one of the reasons why I think those parts of Europe have collapsed in terms of their Christian commitments, is because all the people who really meant it left. But there was somewhere to go. But we're not in that position anymore until Elon gets the thing on Mars going. There's there's no place to go, and so consequently, pulling what the Amish have done is still too close and quaint and too much of a curiosity. I believe that we have to learn how to be robust Christians in the presence of people who don't believe or are hostile to what we're doing. But then they can see the impact of what we're doing. One time years ago, there was a fellow who was sitting down in an alternative. We have our own Christian coffee shop gathering place here, but so do the non-believers. And my Christian friend was in this coffee shop with a non-believer, and he overheard a citizen of the town checking out a new guy, telling him all the businesses to stay away from. All the Kirker businesses that you have to avoid. This one, you have to avoid this one, and there's quite a few up and down Main Street that you have to avoid. But the icing on the cake was when he got through the list, telling him all the businesses to avoid. He then said, and it's a shame too, because they're all the best ones.
Oh,
okay. So if you want really good food, if you want really good beer, if you want really good dental care, if you want really good, these people are on it. These people are doing what they do to the glory of God, and so consequently, they're not just trying to attract customers and move them through. They want to do what they do to the glory of God, and that means quality. It says in Proverbs, "Do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings." Right? The Bible teaches that cream rises, and one of the ways that we can make an impact is in proximity to non-believers. We can build parallel economies and parallel support networks, parallel medical practice, parallel insurance, parallel. We can do all the things, and non-believers are going to start noticing. And as the unbelieving culture disintegrates even further, they're going to notice even more.
Right.
Hey, what we're doing doesn't work, and what they're doing over there appears to be working.
Yes.
Now, I'm not a pragmatist, I'm a Christian, but this is the death blow to pragmatism. It doesn't work.
Right.
Okay. Right. And so, but the Christian faith does,
right?
Precisely because we don't worship results.
Exactly.
We worship Jesus.
Yes. I love it. Oh man, I got to write that down. The death blow of pragmatism is that it does not work. I love that. That was worth it right there. That was brilliant.
I'm glad.
Now, I mean, what you're doing in Moscow is just obviously it's amazing. I mean, you forced NBC News to come out and have to cover you guys, and which was brilliant. That was an excellent interview and segment they had of you guys there. I think they inadvertently showed just what an impact you were having in that community. It is stunning stuff. But the question, I guess, is it, the term might be franchisable. I mean, is it transportable? Is there a secret sauce, right? Yeah. Is it translatable in other contexts?
Thank you. I think that's a great question. And I've faced this over the years, and I would compare it to this. I would say, no, it's not franchisable because we're not Burger King. Okay. It's right. Not franchisable because what we're doing is not like a Coca-Cola bottling plant. If you go get a big a Whopper on the East Coast, it's going to taste exactly like a Whopper that you bought in Oregon. That's franchisable. At the same time, there are certain commonalities that can be exported and can be done elsewhere, but they have to be done a little bit differently. So, for example, you can have Merlot, a vineyard that in California where they make Merlot wine, and a vineyard in France where they grow and make Merlot wine, and a vineyard in many different places, and it's all going to be Merlot, but the terroir is going to be different and distinct in each place.
Right.
The grapes are the same kind of grape, but circumstances and surroundings and climate and all of those things will give it its own unique flavor. So consequently, a classical Christian school in the Deep South is going to be distinct from a classical Christian school here in the Pacific Northwest. And I would say it ought to be. It should be. And this is, frankly, if I can dare say something, this is the true multiculturalism.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. What the unbelievers are wanting to do is they want an artificial counterfeit multiculturalism,
Right.
and what we want is the real thing. If Jesus Christ is the Lord of all, he enables Brazilians to be truly Brazilian, Americans to be truly American, and inside America, Southerners to be truly Southern, Yankees to be truly Yankee, and this is the wonderful binding thing, in such a way as they can all get along.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
When we fragment into tribes or subcultures and we don't keep Christ at the center, one of the things that happens is wars.
Yeah.
That's, wars, conflict, tension, so forth. But if we keep Christ at the center and we appreciate, here's another illustration. You've never seen a guy in the card aisle at Safeway getting into a fight with another guy because he saw the other guy tried to buy a card that said to the world's greatest mom. And he said, "You don't have the world's greatest mom. I have the world's greatest mom." Well, no, if I love and appreciate my culture,
right,
as I do, then I can understand fully why someone else would love and appreciate their culture.
Right.
Right. And flip that around. You do not teach children to respect other cultures by teaching them to despise their own.
Right.
If you teach them to despise their own, what's going to happen is they're going to start despising others, and then you're going to have a recoil, and you're going to have sort of the angry young black-pilled men on the right, young men who have been disillusioned by everything, and they start reading Nietzsche, and everything is, everything's hovering above the void and the abyss. We don't want that. But but if you don't want that, then you can't do the liberal thing, which is to kick white kids in the head for being white and blame them for everything, because then you're going to get the blowback. You're going to get the blowback eventually.
Right.
So what we want to do is cultivate a civilizational appreciation among our kids for their heritage, for their language, for their way of life. And that means when they encounter someone who grew up in a classical Christian school in South Korea, they're going to understand what's going on. He's got certain affections that are different than mine, but we understand each other.
Yeah. Yep. There's the unity and diversity, and the unity is transcendent. It's eternal. It's not constructed. Yeah. I was thinking when you were describing it, the nihilistic right. As you see the trolls online, I
call it the dank right.
Dank right. Yeah, that's right. Or the woke right. I've even heard that that term. It's the same. I like what you said. It's the same frames of reference. It's the same. It's the same negativity and so forth, just coming from a different vantage point. You have a new book, as you're talking about Keep Your Kids. You want to just give us a little précis of your new book?
Yeah, I've written a bunch of books on family and marriage and that sort of thing. But I recently read a great book by Abigail Schreier called Bad Therapy. Just a very good book. And as a result of thinking through it, I realized, parents today are bringing up kids in a very different world than the world that existed when I was first writing books on child rearing. Now, some of the principles are constant. Some of the principles are the same. My earlier book, Standing on the Promises, quotes a lot of scripture on the promises that God has given parents. Those don't have a sell-by date. Those are constant. But some of the challenges are brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having to deal with kids growing up in a world where one of their uncles is transitioning,
Right.
or they're having to deal with the kid next door who goes to the government school and is coming home with all this rainbow stuff, right? And kids are talking about or being groomed in things that 50, 75 years ago, people didn't find out about until the second year of medical school. And now they're being pursued and groomed, and it's a gnarly world now. And to top it off, one of the aspects of this gnarly world is the therapy speak that is coming into the church even, and has affected things like child rearing. So you have the gentle parenting movement, and you need to validate little Billy's feelings, because all the cartoon shows are validating little Billy's feelings. Whatever you feel, that's the truth. Whatever you feel. Well, that is not the scriptural approach at all. So what I wanted to do is equip parents who are bringing up children, young children, in this clown world. What is it? What is it to raise children in the circus? How can we stay faithful? How can we keep our kids faithful? How can you have 25-year-old kids who still want to come back around and have dinner with you?
Yeah. Oh, what I love about what you do, Pastor Doug, is I mean, your faith is a very public faith. I guess so much of my concern, I'm not mine alone, many people's concerns, that the privatization of the faith has really transformed Christianity into an Americanity. It's where it just kind of, it melds so comfortably with the currents of our culture, because it's literally been excommunicated, ironically, from the public square. And you, I know from day one of your ministry, you have you said, "Here I stand. You shall not pass." That is not happening here, and the results speak for themselves. You have a thoroughly civilizational public faith that's transfiguring Moscow, Idaho, and beyond, particularly through the Association of Classical Christian Schools.
Well, thank you. That mix of Luther and Gandalf sounds like a hazardous combination.
That's right. There's something to that. I can do something with that, I think. Or maybe Nate, we'll get Nate on there for his next book.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but absolutely brilliant stuff. Where can people keep in touch with your work and keep up with what you're doing? We'll have links down below.
Yeah, thanks for asking. We've set up. I read a blog, and it's at Blog and Mablog, and the address is dougwills.com, all lowercase, dougwills.com. And if they go there and unpack the front page, there's a link to pretty much everything I do. All the things I've got a hand in: New St. Andrews, Canon Press, ACCS. There's a portal to all those different places from the front page of my blog.
I love it. I'm on Blog and Mablog at least once a week, gang, and you're gonna love it. I mean, and these are very meaty, very, very rich articles, and incredibly profound. And your sermons and scripture exposition. I mean, it's everything civilizational. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Pastor Doug. Thank you so much for being back with us.
Thank you. Make civilization civilized again.
Amen.
All right.